Hello everyone, welcome back to the Keevee channel. So, in my last video I said you could but that was a lie, sort of. See, I need to keep you all on your toes. It's great for viewer retention. Here's the thing, intermittent reinforcement works better for habit building than continuous reinforcement. That means you're actually more likely to subscribe if I keep lying to you. Anyway, make sure to tune in next month for a thorough review of A Framework for Understanding Poverty by Ruby K. Payne, PhD. Today we're going to be reviewing Team Tyrants' debut title, Tyrants Realm, a relatively new game on the scene, released to modest but positive reception back in early January. I can't quite remember how I found out about it, probably while sifting through all the porn bait on the Steam trending tab, but it's been an interesting experience. Interesting enough that I was willing to review it and put about 7 hours into it the night I downloaded it. Tyrants Realm has a pretty unique pitch. It markets itself not just as an action roguelike and Souls-like, but also as a PS1 throwback title. Since the release of Demon Souls for the PS3 back in 2009, people have been gagging for more arcadish takes on the Souls-like genre. The FromSoft modding community have done a pretty good job of subsidizing these demands with the likes of the Stray Souls mod for Dark Souls 3 and the Boss Rush mode for Elden Ring. But this seems to be the first instance, at least that I've heard of, where a developer takes these concepts and builds upon them from the ground up to create their own unique title. The premise is simple. Go through a series of procedurally generated dungeons to beat the boss. Beat enough bosses, you beat the big boss. Beat the big boss, you beat the game. If you're to die at all during the run, you're forced to restart from the beginning. However, depending on your actions in a past life, you may be reincarnated. The karmic cycle is vicious. In one run, I got reincarnated as a blade of grass. It's a terrible fate. In terms of lore and story, there is no lore and story. The Steam homepage alludes to your typical good guy, bad guy shtick, but there's very little mention of it in the game. For years, your family has fought to end the reign of insert evil person. A negative adjective that seeks something inconvenient for a villain to have. The world is a brutal, decaying shadow of what it once was, with fallen cities and lost empires turned into treacherous landscapes. I guess the Dark Souls lore channels won't be using this game to put bread on the table anytime soon, but in a game this short, a lack of depth and complexity shouldn't be a deal breaker. If I had to pause to read a codex entry every time I found something new, it would get tedious really fast and take away from the game's pace. Fresh out the womb, your starting character is pretty dogshit. Wooden shield, dildo sword, no gains, can't carry the boats. But look at this guy. Big dick, big sword, built like a fucking pyrocynical commission, anabolic. Well, how did he get here? Thankfully, equipment is pretty plentiful across the dungeon. Let's break this shit down. Melee weapons. Melee weapons come in all shapes and sizes. How these weapons play is dependent on three major factors. Damage, how much your weapon hurts. Speed, how quickly you can hurt someone. Stamina, how tiring it is to hurt someone. Each weapon has a light attack and a heavy attack. Light attacks are quicker, chainable, and use less stamina. However, heavy attacks hit harder, at the taxpayer's expense. Armor. Armor is pretty important and relatively self-explanatory. The type of armor you wear dictates your speed and defense. Typically, heavy armor makes you slower and stronger. Light armor makes you weaker and faster. Some sets try to provide the best of both worlds, but fail miserably, because fence sitting is for losers. Pick a side and stick to it, because in this world, you're either a twink or a In this world, you're either a twink or a Why did I put that in? Shield. No matter what kind of weapon you're holding, you always have access to the shield. Shields block damage at the expense of stamina, but they also enable parries and executable attacks, granted your meter is built up. Shields also dictate your character's passive ability. This can range from a slight damage increase against bosses to having practically infinite stamina. Now that you have some gear, what do you do with it? Let me introduce you to the skull totem. Seeing a skull totem at the end of a room packed with enemies has me feeling like I'm fucking Indiana Jones. Interacting with one will exponentially upgrade aspects of your character, granted it's compatible with whatever you're holding. Weapon too sluggish? Shit, not anymore. Skull totems turn good builds into great ones. They turn a femboy into a femman. While the main objective of Tyrants Realm is to progress as far as you can in any given run, the secondary objective is to stack bread. As a wise man once said,
$20 can buy many peanuts.
And, in Tyrants Realm, that's all done in the merchant's lounge. Slain enemies drop gold. And, on rare occasions, blueprint. Bring a blueprint to the merchant, and it's yours to unlock forever with that gold. Feel free to use the merchant to buy extra flat, random starting weapons, or even bypass boss fights. The cool thing about Tyrants Realm is that you're never buying an item. You're buying the chance for it to appear. This means if you've somehow concocted a game-breaking build, you'd better start praying to Allah that the stars align and you get it next time, because typically you're going to spend some time piecing together everything you want. Putting theory into practice, the combat system simply falls short of expectations, something that we in the industry call mid, clunky and unresponsive. Most enemies feature only 2 or 3 distinct attack patterns, yet these attacks are accompanied by nearly identical animations across the board. This becomes particularly frustrating when you factor in your inability to cancel attacks. Once you commit to a swing, there's no going back. If your attack doesn't finish off the enemy before their counter, you're eating damage no matter what. I know it's a Souls-like, and it's meant to feel punishing, but that punishment should feel organic and not manufactured. When you're blocking, there's this weird input delay between pressing your spacebar and your shield popping out. This makes parrying really frustrating, if not sometimes feeling impossible. Oh, just get good. Fuck you. Okay, let's address the elephant in the room here, and arguably the game's main selling point. The PS1 throwback style. You're not exactly playing Dark Souls the Dragon here. Was there ever a game you played as a kid for an older console, which you thought looked really good for the time, so you had this polished mental image of it in your head? Then you came back to play it later, and realised it looked like hot garbage. Titans Realm certainly captures the idea of a PS1 game, more so than what an actual PS1 game looks like. The game has a few graphic settings to more or less indulge in your nostalgia. Vertex snapping, a CRT filter, forced aspect ratio, and pixelation. But yeah, you're not playing a PS1 game here, especially considering the game recommends a 2060 to play it. Tyrants Realm is a fun game. It's an amazing roguelike, but it falls just short of being a good Souls-like, and although being a relatively short game, the unique art style and the massive variety of weapons and equipment keep it fresh enough. Combat mechanics, however, feel clunky, frustrating, and unresponsive, in part to input delays and enemy animations. The lack of lore makes the world feel shallow, but I'm not going to cry about it. Overall, it's a flawed title that still manages to do something cool with the genre. Of course, as always, the link to the Steam page to purchase this game for yourself will be down below. If you liked the video, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you later.